The blast wave rolled across the crystalline courtyard as the twin suns shone down on the capital of the Valoran Empire. Smoke curled along the blue stone pathways, and the air shimmered with fading charge from disrupted energy weapons. In the middle of the chaos stood a human soldier named Mark, chest rising with exhaustion, back straight despite the scorching heat. At his feet lay the trembling form of Princess Lyra, heir to the Valoran throne, whose iridescent skin reflected light like tempered glass. Mark kept one hand raised in a defensive stance while the other arm shielded Lyra. His suit had been torn during the ambush, yet he held firm. He had only been on diplomatic escort duty, a simple peace mission meant to show goodwill between humanity and the Valorans. But when masked attackers stormed the courtyard with pulse rifles, everything changed. Lyra looked up at him with wide silver eyes. "You could have moved aside," she whispered. "They were not aiming for you." Mark tightened his stance as more shouts rang through the corridor of shattered pillars. "Doesn't matter," he replied. "I'm not leaving you." And he meant it. Even as a human among towering crystalline figures who moved with liquid grace, he never hesitated. When the attackers fired, Mark jumped in front of Lyra and took the brunt of the blast on the reinforced plates of his armor. It nearly shattered the servos inside, but he held on. The princess stared at him as if she could not comprehend the choice a human had made. To her people, loyalty was conditional, layered with political meaning. To him, it was instinct. When the last attacker fled and the palace guards arrived, Lyra was whisked away to safety. Mark barely had a moment to breathe before an escort of elite. Soldiers surrounded him. "The Queen requests your immediate presence," one announced in a tone. That left no room for refusal. He followed them into the shimmering palace halls made of translucent columns. The palace interior always felt like walking through a dream made of light, but now he noticed how the guards tightened their grip on their weapons, as if unsure what a human might do next. Soon they arrived before the throne chamber. Queen Alindra, ruler of the Valorans, stood at the center of the room. Her height dwarfed the guards, and her crystalline crown refracted the ceiling's lanterns into a halo of colors. Her face was serene, but her eyes held a storm. "Human Mark," she spoke, her voice resonating like chimes struck by wind. "Step forward." Mark complied, feeling every eye in the chamber locked onto him. "You shielded my daughter with your own body," Alindra said. "Explain why." Mark rubbed the grime off his gauntlet. "Because she was in danger. Because it was the right thing to do." The Queen blinked, her expression unreadable. "You risked your life for someone not of your species." "That doesn't matter," Mark said. "Anyone would have done the same." A sound rippled through the chamber like sharp crystal tapping. It took him a moment to realize it was laughter. Valoran nobles gazed at him as though he had spoken a child's fantasy. Alindra descended from her elevated dais and walked toward him with graceful steps. "Human, do you understand what your act represents to our people?" Before he could respond, Lyra appeared from a side door. She rushed toward him and bowed her head. "Mother, he saved me." Without hesitation. "I am aware," the Queen replied. "And because of that, he can never be allowed to leave." Mark stiffened. "Wait, what?" Lyra gasped. "Mother, no." The Queen raised a hand like a command poured from glass. "Silence. Our customs dictate that one who performs such an act of life defense for a member of the royal line becomes bound to the court until released by the reigning monarch. In protecting you, he has become part of our blood oath law." Mark felt the breath leave his lungs. "Your Majesty, with respect, this was a diplomatic escort mission. I was here on behalf of the United Earth Coalition. I didn't do this to be ... bound." Alindra's tone remained calm. "Intent does not alter the binding. You saved the future of the throne. No law allows me to free you, Lyra stepped forward. Mother, the custom was created during wartime ages ago. It should not trap him. The chamber grew silent. Alendra regarded her daughter for a long moment before speaking. The law remains. Mark felt the walls closing in. So what happens now? You will remain within the palace, the queen replied. You will be given chambers and status. But you will never return home. The words struck like a hammer. Lyra whispered his name. But the guards had already moved in. Mark was escorted through winding corridors, into a wing of the palace reserved for honored retainers. The room was large and bright, but to him it felt like a gilded cage. As the door closed behind him, he slumped onto the crystalline bench and pressed a hand to his forehead. He had protected a life. Now his own life had been taken from him without a single weapon drawn. Hours passed before the door slid open again. Lyra stepped inside, her expression solemn. I argued with her, she said. Mother would not listen. Mark looked up. I can't stay here forever. I know, she said softly. But until she changes her mind, the law binds you. Mark stood and approached the window, overlooking the glowing city. My crew will think I'm dead. My people will wonder what happened. I can't just vanish. Lyra lowered her gaze. I owe you my life. I will not allow your freedom to be stolen. Her tone carried determination beneath her quiet voice. In the days that followed, Mark learned that his presence in the palace sparked debates across the empire. Some saw him as a hero. Others saw him as a dangerous outsider who now possessed influence over the princess. Alindra, bound by law and pride, refused every diplomatic request from Earth, asking for his return. Mark spent his time training, studying the Valoran language, and trying to understand the culture that had trapped him. The palace staff grew accustomed to him, and some even began to respect him. But he never forgot what he lost. One day, Lyra visited him with a determined look. There will be a gathering in the Great Hall, she said. Leaders from all Valoran provinces will attend. Mother will speak of the future alliances. If I intervene then, before the entire council, she will not be able to ignore it. Mark crossed his arms. And what will you say? That your act was one of courage, not obligation. That you must be released by royal decree, even if the law says otherwise. That sounds risky. Lyra smiled faintly. Everything worth doing carries risk. When the day came, the palace swelled with nobles. Their glowing attire cast shifting patterns of light across the floor. Mark, dressed in ceremonial cloth given by the palace staff, stood at the back near the guards. Queen Alindra addressed the assembly with her usual calm authority. She spoke of trade routes, unity, future prosperity. But when she mentioned the human who had saved her daughter, the hall stirred. Mark of Earth remains bound to our court, she declared, as tradition requires. Lyra stepped forward. Mother, members of the council, I speak on behalf of the future of our empire, she announced, voice carrying across the hall. The law of life defense was created to prevent betrayal, not to imprison a friend. Alindra's gaze hardened. Lyra, we will discuss this privately. No, Lyra said. This must be said here. Before all. Mark acted out of compassion, not strategy. Keeping him here against his will dishonors the very spirit of the law. The room erupted with murmurs. Alindra lifted a hand, but Lyra continued. If you keep him here, our allies will question our intentions. Our people will see a hero turned into a captive. This is not the future we want. The queen's eyes glowed faintly, a sign of deep deliberation. My daughter, you speak boldly. I must, Lyra replied, because he gave me his courage when I had none. All eyes shifted to Mark. He stepped forward slowly, stopping near the foot of the dais. Your Majesty, he said with steady voice, I have respected your laws. I understand your customs. But my people believe that saving a life is done without expecting chains in return. I don't want conflict between our worlds. I only want to go home." Elindra approached him. She stood tall, her presence commanding, yet there was a softness in her expression now. "You risked your life for my child," she said. "And yet you asked for nothing." "I didn't save her to earn anything," Mark said. "I saved her because she deserved to live." Silence settled over the hall. Elindra looked at her daughter, then back at him. Finally, she drew a slow breath. "The law binds me," she said. "But a queen is not a servant to the past. A queen shapes the present." She turned toward the assembly. "Let the royal decree be amended. Let the life defense binding be lifted when the saved one chooses to release the saver. Princess Lyra, do you release him?" Lyra stepped close, eyes shining. "I release him." A surge of energy pulsed through the hall as ancient protocols broke. Mark felt something intangible lift from his chest, like an invisible weight dissolving. Elindra faced him with a rare smile. "Human Mark, you are free." Relief washed over him, but there was a pang of emotion he had not anticipated. He had grown close to Lyra in ways he had not realized not later that evening. As he prepared to leave aboard an Earth vessel, Lyra walked with him to the landing platform. The glowing horizon cast colors across her skin. "You changed our world," she said. "Not with power, but with courage." Mark smiled softly. "And you changed mine." She reached out and pressed her palm over his hand. "You will always be welcome here." He nodded, stepping onto the ramp of the ship. "Take care of yourself, Lyra." He paused, looked back one last time, and saw her standing alone beneath the twin suns. Her expression held pride. "So?